You know that dream of waking up in a charming French cottage? Or maybe a chic Parisian apartment? So many of us have it. But let's be honest, the actual buying process can feel, well, like a total maze. That's why we're here. In this explainer, we're basically going to hand you the map, a clear step-by-step guide to turn that dream into your reality. So, let's just dive right in.
I mean, just look at that. Whether you're picturing yourself surrounded by lavender fields in Provence or sipping a coffee on the balcony of a villa on the Côte d'Azur, that dream is actually way closer than you might think. The key, though, is having a solid plan. And that's exactly what we're going to build together right now, step by step.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We've broken this whole journey down into 5 key stages. We'll kick things off with the basics, then get into financing. After that, we'll walk through the actual buying process, get our heads around French property law, and then finish up with some smart ways to own your property and handle taxes. Simple as that. Let's get started.
All right, part 1, your French property journey. This is all about getting started with confidence. Before you even think about browsing listings, there are a few big questions we need to tackle to make sure you're on the right track.
And let's just kick things off with the best news, shall we? The big question, can a foreigner even buy property in France? And the answer is a huge, resounding yes. Absolutely. France totally welcomes foreign buyers, and there are basically no restrictions. Doesn't matter if you're from the EU or not.
Okay, so for any non-EU citizens watching, there's a really important distinction to make. Buying property and actually living in France are 2 separate things. So owning a home, that doesn't automatically grant you residency. But, and this is a big but, it can seriously strengthen your application for a long-stay visa. So what's the big takeaway here? You've got to think about your property plans and your visa strategy at the same time. They really go hand in hand. So once you know you can buy, the very next question is pretty obvious, right? How are you going to pay for it? That brings us right into Section 2, financing your French dream. And trust me, this is about a whole lot more than just the sticker price on the house.
Yeah, this is probably the #1 question on every single buyer's mind. What are all the extra costs? You know, the stuff that's not on the price tag.
And here it is. This is the magic number you really need to burn into your brain. On top of the purchase price, you absolutely have to budget for an extra 7 to 10%. That's for all the fees and taxes. Getting this right is honestly a critical piece of the puzzle.
So what exactly is in that 7 to 10%? Well, here's the breakdown. A big chunk of it is what's called the notary fees, which, by the way, also includes a bunch of taxes they collect for the government. Then you've got your real estate agency commissions and some other legal charges. See, it's not just one big mystery fee. It's a bunch of specific, highly regulated costs.
And this right here, this highlights a massive difference in the French system compared to, well, pretty much anywhere else. You have to get your financing sorted out before you make an offer. Why? Because in France, a written offer isn't just a suggestion. It's a legal commitment. Getting pre-approved for a mortgage isn't just, good advice. It's an absolutely essential step to protect yourself.
Okay, so your financing is all lined up. Now you're ready to actually make a move. This brings us to the real heart of it all, Section 3, the official buying process. This is your roadmap, from the moment you make an offer to the day you get those keys.
The great thing about the French process is that it's super structured, which is actually fantastic for buyers. There are 5 main milestones to remember. First, you make a formal, written offer. Second, you appoint a notaire. He's your legal guide. Third, you sign the big one, the first contract, called the Conforme de Vente. That kicks off a 10-day cooling-off period. And finally, you sign the final deed, the Acte de Vente, and congratulations, the property is yours.
Okay, here's a massive pro tip that will save you so much potential headache. A casual chat, a verbal agreement, it means absolutely nothing legally in France. Your offer has to be a formal, written document to even be considered. This isn't just bureaucracy. It's a rule that's there to protect both you and the seller.
All right, let's zoom in on that first contract, the compromise de vente. Seriously, this is the big one. It's the very first legally binding agreement, and it locks in all the details of the sale. The moment you sign this, you'll pay your deposit, usually 5 to 10%, and that's also when the clock officially starts on your 10-day cooling-off period.
Now, that whole structured process we just walked through, it's all built on a really strong legal foundation. So for Section 4, let's dive into some of the key parts of French property law that are actually designed specifically to protect you, the buyer. The absolute central figure in any French property deal is the notaire, and it's so important to understand what they are and what they aren't. They're not just a lawyer working for you or the seller. A notaire is a state-appointed public official. Their duty is to the government to make sure the sale is 100% legal and all the taxes get paid. They handle all the paperwork, do the property searches, and they hold your deposit safely in an escrow account. You can think of them as the impartial, official referee for the whole transaction.
Okay, now let's talk about one of the most powerful protections you have as a buyer in France, a mandatory 10-day cooling-off period.
And really, this says it all. For 10 days, you have the absolute right to back out. You don't have to give a reason, you don't have to justify it, and there's no financial penalty. It's literally your time to just step back, think, and be 100% sure this is what you want.
So, how does this work in the real world? Well, the clock starts ticking the day after you get your copy of the fully signed compromis de vente. If you do decide to withdraw, you have to send a formal letter, a registered letter to let them know. And if you do that, your entire deposit has to be returned to you within 21 days. It's a very clear, very regulated process.
Okay, you've found your dream property. You've got the financing lined up, and you've navigated the whole legal process. Now it's time for the final, really strategic piece of the puzzle. How should you actually own the property? Believe me, this decision can have huge implications for taxes and inheritance way down the road.
For a lot of international buyers, a really smart option to look into is something called an SCI, which stands for Société Civile Immobilière. The easiest way to think about it is like creating a small private company for the sole purpose of owning and managing your French property, and it offers a ton of flexibility, especially when it comes to things like inheritance planning.
This table really lays out the benefits so clearly. Look, if you own the property directly in your own name, you're automatically subject to France's really complex inheritance laws. But with an SCI, you don't own the property. You own shares in the company that owns it, and those shares are way easier to transfer to your heirs. It can also be much more efficient for taxes, like capital gains and inheritance tax, and it's just fantastic if you're buying with a partner or a group of people.
All right, that was a lot, I know. So let's just do a quick recap of the absolute must-knows. Number 1, plan your finances first, and don't forget that extra 7 to 10% for fees. 2, offers have to be in writing to be legal. 3, the notaire is your impartial, state-appointed legal guide. 4, you are always protected by that mandatory 10-day cooling-off period. And 5, definitely look into an SCI for long-term tax and inheritance benefits.
So, there you have it. We've laid out the how. We've given you the map, a clear, structured path to buying your home in France. And that really only leaves one last, very exciting question for you to answer. Where is your French dream going to take you?